Damn the fellow, prince indeed. He'd better not say it, the beast. But excuse me. They'd take their stand on the act, was being said in another group, the wife must be registered as noble. Oh, damn your axe. I speak from my heart. We're all gentlemen, aren't we? Above suspicion. Shall we go on, Your Excellency, fine champagne? Another group was following a nobleman, who was shouting something in a loud voice. It was one of the three intoxicated gentlemen. I always advised Marya Semyonovna to let for a fair rent, for she can never save a profit, he heard a pleasant voice say. The speaker was a country gentleman with grey whiskers, wearing the regimental uniform of an old general staff officer. It was the very landowner Levin had met at Sviashki's. He knew him at once. The landowner too stared at Levin, and they exchanged greetings. Very glad to see you. To be sure. I remember you very well. Last year at our district marshal, Nikolai Ivanovitch's. Well, and how is your land doing? Asked Levin. Oh, still just the same, always at a loss, the landowner answered with a resigned smile, but with an expression of serenity and conviction that so it must be. And how do you come to be in our province? He asked. Come to take part in our coup d'etat? He said, confidently pronouncing the French words with a bad accent. All Russia's here gentlemen of the bedchamber, and everything short of the ministry. He pointed to the imposing figure of Stepan Arkadyevitch in white trousers and his court uniform, walking by with a general. I ought to own that I don't very well understand the drift of the provincial elections, said Levin. The landowner looked at him. Why, what is there to understand? There's no meaning in it at all. It's a decaying institution that goes on running only by the force of inertia. Just look, the very uniforms tell you that it's an assembly of justices of the peace, permanent members of the court, and so on, but not of noblemen. Then why do you come? Asked Levin. From habit, nothing else. Then, too, one must keep up connections. It's a moral obligation of a sort. And then, to tell the truth, there's one's own interests. My son-in-law wants to stand as a permanent member, they're not rich people, and he must be brought forward. These gentlemen, now, what do they come for? He said, pointing to the malignant gentleman, who was talking at the high table. That's the new generation of nobility. New it may be, but nobility it isn't. They're proprietors of a sort, but we're the landowners. As noblemen, they're cutting their own throats. But you say it's an institution that served its time. That it may be, but still it ought to be treated a little more respectfully. Snetkov, now we may be of use, or we may not, but we're the growth of 1,000 years. If we're laying out a garden, planting one before the house, you know, and there you've a tree that's stood for centuries in the very spot. Old and gnarled it may be, and yet you don't cut down the old fellow to make room for the flower beds, but lay out your bed so as to take advantage of the tree. You won't grow him again in a year, he said cautiously, and he immediately changed the conversation. Well, and how is your land doing? Oh, not very well. I make 5%. Yes, but you don't reckon your own work? Aren't you worth something too? I'll tell you my own case. Before I took to seeing after the land, I had a salary of £300 from the service. Now I do more work than I did in the service, and like you I get 5% on the land, and thank God for that. But one's work is thrown in for nothing. Then why do you do it, if it's a clear loss? Oh, well, one does it. What would you have? It's habit, and one knows it's how it should be. And what's more, the landowner went on, leaning his elbows on the window and chatting on, my son, I must tell you, has no taste for it. There's no doubt he'll be a scientific man. So there'll be no one to keep it up. And yet one does it. Here this year I've planted an orchard.